Good afternoon. Namaste to all of you. Let's start this function of the Prem Jain Memorial Address with a rendition of the Indian National Anthem.
अधिनायक जय भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्छल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे
Namaskar once again, and a great afternoon to all of you. It is very appropriate that we began this event today with this beautiful song that Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore wrote exactly 100 years ago, sometime in March 1911. The poem was first publicly recited on the second day of the annual session of the Indian National Congress in Calcutta on 27th December that same year. It was adopted, well, as many of you know, in January 1950, on the 24th, today is the 27th, 71 years ago in the Constituent Assembly of India. Gurudev wrote 5 stanzas. I would urge all youngsters present here to read those stanzas and the significance they carry to this day. It is also appropriate for another reason. Dr. Prem Jain would often go back to Gurudev's stirring lines from his works for inspiration. And you should read that little book that called The Path of Green that Dr. Prem Jain put together for many of those evocative, inspirational lines from Gurudev's songs. And so it's doubly appropriate today. Namaskar and a great afternoon to all of you once again. We have today the 3rd annual Prem Jain Memorial Address. And we have 3 distinguished doyens of sustainability offering their inspiring insights. One of them, Shiv Khera, will be speaking to us all from a hospital bed, shows his commitment. We have 3 equally distinguished leaders, all part of the leadership of the trust, to offer some insights before each key speaker takes the microphone. And I shall speak to you about both the sets of 3 people soon. My name is Hari Haran. I'll be with you all throughout this afternoon's program. Let me quickly set the context in 4 brief different parts. First, why the Prem Jain Memorial Trust, its vision and its purpose. The objects of the trust, as you will see in another film that we will be showing you soon, are somewhat like this. Advocacy and awareness on the environment, on sustainable built environment and habitats is a primary vision or purpose. Promotion of development and design, dissemination of education on environment, ecology, sustainability, and related studies among schools, colleges is another. Awards and recognition and instituting of prizes and ceremonies for those who are deserving amongst the young is one more, because Dr. Jain sought to work and enjoyed working with the young. The memorial address itself, this one, and a monthly lecture series that we are now proposed, is part also of such perpetuation of his memory. Institution of chairs of sustainability in his honor, one has already been set up at the School of Planning and Architecture. In various other universities and schools of architecture and engineering is one more. Supporting unsung, unhonored young bright talent in schools and colleges. Schools more than colleges, shall we say, is another part of this larger set of things that we have sought to sort of take up aspirationally here at the Prem Jain Memorial Trust. Of course, promoting green innovations, technologies, and technologists is part of such approaches that we are taking out here. Dear students, you are the future of India. Join the mission. Become green ambassadors. We have a very wonderful set of such initiatives that have been taken up by the trust. Write to us, and you will know how to be guided by some of us out here at the trust on such engagement from you. Let me turn to the second highlight I want to place before you all today. What is this Mahotsav celebration about, and why was it conceived? How has it evolved over the last 2 years plus? Let me run a bunch of slides of the numbers of these events. Tanya, can I request you to switch on to the slides, please? You are the judge of such a Mahotsav can help in widening the canvas of green impact for our Janani Janmabhoomi, as Dr. Prem Jain often talked about or called this country. He would never, as Ashish was saying another day, he would never call India, India. He would either say Bharat or he would say Janani Janmabhoomi. It has a history and a culture which very, very few nations share. Look at all these virtual events that we have got lined up. Just this 1 week from 23rd, last Saturday. I'm not going to read what you see on the screen out there. And look at that about membership. That's something that you might want to take up. You can always talk to our people on the sidelines. Panel discussions, many of them already been held. There are quizzes that are going on. There are saplings drives of this kind many companies have held. There's green play, interestingly, and that will be also on the archives of the website. You could go back and see it. And there is a virtual run where you run, send us, a marking of the run that you did. There's another interesting one on the masks, thanks to COVID. Green art competition, of course. Essay competition. And something else from the architecture challenge. Look at how it's weaving into all these spectrum of vision challenges that the trust has taken up. Yeah, there you are. And this is day one. We had 2 of them. All of this week. Day 2, we had the session where Pyle spoke. That is unusual of her, but she came in and coordinated that session. That's day 3. We had some wonderful speakers there too. There again, there was a second session there. And well, that's it. So there we are on day 6, and that's day 7 will be tomorrow. Oh no, yeah, okay. That's day 8. Well, where do I take this from? I was telling you about the Janani Janmabhoomi. India is not a country, it's not a nation. It's more a civilization, as very many people will tell you. Dr. Prem Jain passed away in September 2018. In less than 2 months of his demise, the Prem Jain Trust was constituted. We began the first memorial address itself in January. His birthday was the 26th, as you all know. We made that happen on the 27th of 2019. We've had many distinguished leaders and visionaries taking the stage in the last 2 years. Today is the turn of these inspiring leaders, the 3 of them, whom I'll speak about again, as I said, a while from now, to offer their thoughts, their perspectives and insights. Who knows what will strike your young minds in a way that it stays with you the rest of your long lives. Listen to them, absorb what they have to offer, choose a path that will drive the nation's interests first, as much as it does yours. A few minutes more on the debt of gratitude the Prem Jain Memorial Trust owes its partners and the co-leaders who make the trust the powerful engine of ideas that it is and the fount of inspiration that it has become in so short a time. Let me start with the Board of Governors and the trustees. Let me read out the names because each of them is exceptional as a leader and each of them has contributed majorly, significantly to all that the trust stands for today. Mr. V. Suresh, Mr. Raghupati of the CII, he's the Deputy Director General there now, Dr. V.K. Paul of the School of Planning and Architecture, Mr. KJ Java of Daikin, Mr. Deepak Pava, who is also here, Mr. Kamal Mittal of Paharpur, Mr. Chirag Bajal, Mr. Gurmeet Singh Sethi, Gurmeet Arora, Richie Mittal of Israel, Anna Vastre, Dharam Rathod, KK Mitra, Rajneesh Joshi, of course, Arvind Arora, Professor Matt Sayal, who is sitting today in Illinois, in Chicago, Manish Mehta, Sheetal Rakeja, Ashish is here. I've also been part of this distinguished group along with Ashish from the very inception of the trust, driving every nuance with Prem Jain, Debashish, Ashish and others. I remember that meeting that we had at Ashishville in Hyderabad over a cup of coffee, and we said something needs to be done to see that his memory is perpetuated for a long time. How many people will have the rare blessing and fortune of being a Prem Jain who takes Prem Jain's name nearly every hour of every day? Prem Smaran every day is something that she does, and I think it's a rare blessing. On the Mahotsav partners itself this year, I have to mention the names because it's important for us to see that we pay our debt of gratitude to these people too, starting with the Indian Green Building Council and the IGBC student chapters, the ASHRAE India chapter, the ISHRAE and ISHRAE student chapters. There are many more, but for want of time, I don't want to list all of them. Corporate partners who have made this year's Mahotsav happen across India are Daikin, of course, Carrier UTC, Hitachi, Aeon, Braille, which is a Power's group, Danfoss, System Air, Lloyd's Insulation, Kehems Technologies, Rotary Club in Baroda, who have done a wonderful event this week, Panache Green Tech Solutions again in Baroda, Luby Industries, K-Flex Industries, Ensavier Technologies, Women Inspiring Network, or what is called WIN, Center for Responsible Business, as well as the Sattva Nation. Other partners who have offered us the privilege of working together this year are, and in the last 2 years, I would say, Our Lady Irvin College in New Delhi itself, APJ School of Architecture and Planning, Axis Institute of Technology and Management, the KIET group of institutions, the NITE School of Architecture in Bangalore, the RIC School of Built Environment in the Amity University campus, the World University of Design, who have done some wonderful sessions for us in the last year or so, the Sushant School of Architecture, Vivekananda Global University, the Meerut Institute of Engineering, Cochin University of Science and Technology, IK Gujarat Technical University. I mention these names because this year, a lot of these events, that counts over 80 to 90 such events in just these 5 to 7 days, ladies and gentlemen. It's an impressive array of such events that have been conducted, I would reckon, over about 35 cities and with all these multiple institutions that I listed above. Thank you so much for all of you for having been with us. On the Green Ambassadors, many bright young students with a clear understanding of their objectives of PJMT and from many architectural and engineering colleges have been a very integral part of PJMT's journey these last 2 years. Payal started this initiative sometime, I think, in mid-2019, and it has grown. They work on social media campaigns, provide out-of-box ideas, increase outreach of PJMT to many young, hopeful Indians who want to share and engage and involve, who will and can drive the green movement forward. This year, with their creative ideas and enthusiasm, the Trust has taken up several green challenges with colleges and student communities across India. We're thrilled. We are really actually thrilled to announce the winners of these green challenges today. Payal will do the honors in the last segment of this event this afternoon. Stay with us at that point in time. And let me again reiterate my request earlier to all of you youngsters. Please take this wonderful opportunity to be green ambassadors for the Prem Jain Memorial Trust. A quick word to all of you who are digitally savvy. Hashtags. Please visit us first at the PremJainMemorialTrust.com. You'll find lots of information on upcoming events and activities. On the Instagram, we are at Prem Jain Memorial Trust, easy to remember. You can join the conversation also at hashtags HPBM, that is Harit Prem Bharat Mahotsav, HPBM21, or simply at hashtag PJMT, or hashtag Walk the Green, or hashtag Dream the Green. Well, a word of thanks to Mr. Java, Mr. Suresh, and Dr. V.K. Paul, the three of whom in that order will be felicitating our speakers of the day. Each of them, these three people, will offer a few inspiring words during this session to present the master speakers. Shiv Khera first, Mr. Pradeep Burman, who is here next, and architect Brinda Somaya. Let me also tell you that all these three people who are going to be felicitating these people are themselves unique and distinguished in the ways that they have led things, even in the last 1 year. Mr. Java, the MD and CEO of Daikin, for instance, was conferred this rare honor of being the most promising business leader in Asia by the Economic Times at a conclave of Asian business leaders last year during the COVID year. Well, what can I say of Mr. V. Suresh, the chairman of the Indian Green Building Council? Not that he needs more awards and conferments of that kind, but he won this last year, the prestigious Gaurav Award 2020 from the Association of Consulting Civil Engineers, ACC, which is the largest such building industry body in the country. It has over 7,000 members. And that was a Lifetime Achievement Award for Suresh. Congratulations once again to the both of you. Professor Dr. V.K. Paul became last year the head of the department of the BEM School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi. And he will be, of course, felicitating the last speaker of the day today. This is a very beautiful collective expression of our Shraddhanjali for a man who shaped values for the country and for many, many young minds. He carved and molded many such minds. We found it befitting, really truly befitting, to invite Ashish Rakeja to share some very brief reflections on this man, on this wonderful man who we all had the privilege of knowing and having a brush with greatness with that person. Ashish can actually speak for hours on Dr. Jain. I'm asking him to do the nearly impossible, as I said on a phone chat with him an hour ago. I have requested him to speak in, say, 2 or maybe 3 minutes of all that Dr. Prem Jain meant for him and means for a lot of the youngsters of this country. He first met him in 1989 as a 20-year-old, so you know how old he is. After Ashish speaks, we have a short film of 8 minutes on Dr. Jain, the trust and the journey. What follows after that is a lovely lighting of lamp ceremony. I will come to that after Ashish has spoken. Over to you, Ashish. Thank you so much for all of you for being with us. It's a wonderful afternoon, and there's a genuine treat of learning and of knowledge that will be shared with you all. Over to you, Ashish.
Namaskar, everyone. And thank you, Doctor, for giving this wonderful introduction. You've given me a very tough task to introduce this great personality in 2 to 3 minutes. I think it's an impossible task, which I'm attempting, but I'll do that. My association with Dr. Jain started nearly 26 years.
Can you hear me?
I started when I was age of 19. I was in college, and many of you are students out here, and you got mentors in your life. He was my mentor. He's the one who inspired me to go for further education. I did my master's from IIT Delhi. And then he said, why don't you give it back to society? He got me into teaching, which is what I did for 15 years of my life. He corrected my path when I was going astray. He was my guru, and I always remember him like a disciple. Dr. Jain's pride was his company, Spectral. He was also called the founder of the electromechanical consulting business in India at a time when most of the consultants were single in terms of air conditioning, electrical, plumbing. He's the man who brought everything together. He firmly believed in ethics, and the whole company foundation was done on the hard work and ethics, not compromising on any time. His passion was Bharat, and it was always about made in India. He acknowledged everyone, which is one of his great virtues. Some of the qualities of Dr. Jain, which we all need to imbibe. His passion was teaching, and he was dedicated towards the student. And that's why today the PJMT focuses a lot on the student itself. punctuality, he was known for it. You could synchronize your watch by the time of the meeting and when he would arrive there.
Thank you.
Amazing memory. He could recall names,
Thank you.
at any point of time. His hugs, his warm, greetings. I think they are something which people even remember till date, and meticulous to the point. He was dedicated, as I said, to Mother Earth, or his Janmabhoomi, which is what Dr. Hariharan brought out. Right from the point when we had, there was a single green building in the country of 20,000 square feet. He's the man who put a vision for our country saying that we will have 10 billion square feet by 2022, which is when India turns 75. Now imagine you have a 20,000 square feet and you're dreaming of a 10 billion square feet. And he very much made that possible. Today, at this point of time, even though he's gone, the Indian Green Building movement stands at 7.5 billion square feet plus, and very much on the path to become 10 billion. He was a visionary and took us to the point which we could not even dream. And thanks to him, today we have this wonderful trust, the work taking forward, and I'm happy that I got these 3 minutes to share for his life. Thank you very much. Have a good Mahotsav. Have a good session today. Thank you. Namaskar.
If we can change the way we think about buildings, maybe what we build will change the world. Urban India in the 21st century is racing at a breathless pace, powering aspirations for bigger, better, and more. But this fast-paced growth brings some serious challenges of the modern times. Today, we are on the verge of exhausting our natural resources and our environmental bounties. Our society is in desperate need of a revolution to save and preserve sustainable habitat for our future generations. The seeds for one such revolution were sown many decades ago, when a wise mother shared her far-sighted vision with her young bright son.
From my earliest childhood, it's been ingrained with me that truth will always win, what we call Satyamev Jayate. She also gave us the love for all living creatures, trees and plants, the message of non-violence. And ever since my childhood, I've always respected that all life forms are equally important.
This exceptionally talented young boy went on to become a champion crusader for Green India. Dr. Prem Jain graduated from Banaras Engineering College, BHU, in 1957 and went on to the University of Minnesota, USA, to obtain the highest degree of PhD in Mechanical and Electrical Engineering. After spending 13 years working with some best research and design firms in the USA, he decided to return to his Janani Janambhoomi with a vision to build a new India. In 1980, he created Spectral, taking it to the country's most respected premier MEP consulting firm in the next 3 decades.
Another thing that happened in the Spectral time that we were working with, we were challenged, where is your Green Business Center? As proud Indians we are, we said, we'll make the world's greenest. And we did. In 2003, we created Godrej Business Center in Hyderabad, which was then highest rating for any building in the whole world. And Rashtrapati came to inaugurate the building, which is unusual. They normally don't inaugurate the private building. But he did. That's where the green building movement started.
And that was just the start. Throughout his corporate journey, Dr. Prem Jain facilitated a record high of 60 platinum and 40 gold awards from IGBC and USGBC for design of green buildings in India. In 2007, Dr. Jain took over the mammoth responsibility heading the Indian Green Building Council, IGBC.
I declared when I became the chairman that next 6 years we'll achieve 1 billion square feet, 1 square foot by every Indian. My slogan was very simple.
His slogan became more than a reality when India reached 1 billion square feet of registered green footprint with IGBC in 2012, 3 years ahead of schedule, and further achieved 6.4 billion square feet of green building footprint by 2018. Dr. Jain also created another massive revolution by introducing a chapter on sustainability for the National Building Code of India in 2016.
The beauty of the code is that all municipalities across the country give approval to the plan based on the code. Every building which will come up henceforth, if it has to comply with the code, has to be green. And I know for sure in another 3 years or 4 years, we'll be far ahead of even America or any other country coming up in the future.
This visionary icon also founded ISHRE, which today has more than 12,000 professional and 8,000 student members. Later, ISHRE and ASHRE India bestowed upon him the Lifetime Achievement Award. He was also instrumental in institutionalizing Green Building Congress, an annual flagship event offering new paradigms to accelerate green building movement in India. For his exceptional work and vast knowledge, he was revered as the father of green buildings in India. One profound idea Dr. Jain strongly held onto was of nurturing and mentoring young bright minds, as he remained paramount through 47 years of relentless commitment to the School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi, as a visiting faculty.
In light of what I learned about Shanti Niketan, out in the open, when I don't have to put anything on the board, the classes meet in the open air here. For me, it is very fulfilling to see these young boys and girls go out in the field fully equipped with the knowledge of the real world. I don't tell them books, I don't tell them formulae, I don't tell them catalogs. I tell them real life situation.
Today, he's no longer with us, but his legacy and vision will brighten the path for generation of future leaders. To mark Dr. Jain's birth anniversary on the 26th of January, a week-long celebration titled Harit Prem Bharat Mahotsav will take place from 23rd to 29 January annually. To promote Dr. Jain's love for Mother Nature, the Prem Jain Memorial Trust is formed with a mission to create, establish and maintain sustainability paradigm through education, recognition and nurturing of the present and future generations. The vision of the Trust is to identify future leaders and global development of sustainability, create awareness and advocacy on environment, foster development of education, recognition of public participation and innovation, nurture young talent, disseminate education on sustainable development, ecosystems and built environment, create response mechanism for evolving sustainability, nurture talent recognition and encourage incubation.
Thank you for that lovely film. He had a way of speaking in homiles. He didn't complicate his sentences, and he spoke from his heart. As Ashish said earlier in that very well captured, thank you, Ashish, for doing that impossible thing in 3 minutes. He was first quintessentially a teacher. He loved to be introduced anywhere, not as the chairman of the Indian Green Building Council or of anything else that he represented. He represented some very, very significant things in life. But if you told somebody else that here is Dr. Jain, who is first a teacher, he would beam so warmly that you could see that it meant a great deal for him. Well, we have now a very, very simple ceremony for the lighting of the lamps. It's virtual, of course, and here are stalwarts who have offered their blessings and prayers to the Prem Jain Memorial Trust for all its activities. The music you hear is a soulful composition from Pandit Hariprasad Chaurasia. The rendering is in Rag Vrindavani Sarang. Very lovely, 7-8 minutes to follow. Over to you, Tanya. There we are. Thank you once again for all of you who did your little tribute for Dr. Jain with that lighting ceremony. Of course, it would have been a lot more, shall we say, poignant if this was done in person. But we live with, I think, the advantage sometimes of these post-COVID times, as well as, of course, the limitations that come with it. We have now a film of probably 9 minutes, a very, very remarkable film put together in the last 2, maybe 3 weeks of some of these living legends of the green building movement from maybe 1985 or so when the US Green Building Council was born in 1987. We have Kath Williams today here. We will have the chief patron of the Indian Green Building Council, Padhu Padmanabhan, many, many other stalwarts who are speaking for not too long, maybe 50, 60 seconds each, but it's grown into a very, very lovely film. And here we are. We're going to watch this for the next 8, 9, 10 minutes perhaps. Over to you, Tanya.
Thou hast made me endless, such is thy pleasure. This frail vessel thou emptiest again and again, and fillest it ever with fresh life. Thy infinite gifts come to me only on these very small hands of mine. Ages pass, and still thou pourest, and still there is room to fill.
I think he's the best, okay, and I don't think India is going to see another PC Jain for a long, long time to come.
I think he's a person who, his DNA is basically green, and he is very passionate about it.
What can you say about a person who in 1959, does something to do with efficiencies of the kind that we are today talking about in HVAC?
He is the father of green. I would say he is a father of greening India. And Dr. Jain is not just an ordinary person for us, he is our inspiration. He is inspiration not for the just present generation, but for the future generation as well.
So leadership of the Green Building Council has become very important, and in taking forward from where he did earlier the chapter on air conditioning and heating in the National Building Code, which is like the Gita for the whole construction sector, which is the model for that. He is now part of the new chapter getting added. This is really the first time anywhere in the world of what is called the sustainability issues being added in the built environment.
Whatever today the movement are, it's because of the leadership of Dr. Prem Jain. Today we talk about the billion square feet green footprint, but all because of his own initiatives and his support to the nation.
Some of the objectives that describe Dr. Jain the best: is a leader, a yogi, Karam yogi, guru, and of course a mentor to many of us in the HVAC industry.
He's a perfectionist. Learn from him how to do the things in a nicer way, the best way and the perfect way.
Phenomenal to have put India on the global map in an area that he's so passionate about.
He had this unique way of connecting with people, of being able to motivate them.
The kind of energy, the kind of enthusiasm, the kind of willingness to share his knowledge, that's really tremendous and something very rare in the field that he comes from.
He's a great humanist. He's a person who thinks beyond, who looks beyond. For him, it is not his selfish interest. It is the development at large. A person who thinks for the next generation.
I think his greatest contribution here has been the networking. I mean, the number of people all over the world who know him, who he knows, that he deals with on a personal level in this area is just wonderful.
For any discussions, we were always welcome to his house, come office.
A person who makes everyone else around him great.
I have seen God in him. I don't know whether God is there in temples, but I have seen him.
Prem was very soft-spoken, very persuasive, very convincing, chose simple words when he spoke, and was very knowledgeable on what he said.
Dr. Prem Jain is an infectious person. People cannot forget him.
There are some people in your lives whom you feel were always there. So you don't really remember when you first met them or when you last met them. Prem was one of those. Dr. Jain, we worked together on projects, and then over the years we became friends. He always had that wonderful smile and deep respect and regard for everybody who passed his way.
His clarion call that every Indian, that is Bharat, should contribute 1 square feet of green footprint led to the expansion in the green footprint in the country from 13 million square feet in 2009 to over 1 billion square feet in 2015 and is slated to increase to 10 billion square feet by 2022.
Dr. P.C. Jain, a mentor, a friend, a teacher, a free thinker, an innovator, a change agent, and a pure soul. These are the few words I can describe him with. I fondly remember Dr. Jain for decades for his services to the environment, earning him a reputation as a green visionary. His name is synonymous with the science of air conditioning, and he is known as one of the most outstanding consulting engineers of all times.
The impact on the planet, as I saw it through his eyes, can only be achieved when we evolve as human beings within all of us, and then through that we impact the cause of sustainability. One specific area on that has been the work with the young children. We have tried doing our bit as an organization to work with the young children for the last 13 years plus. I commend the work being done by the Trust and IGBC and many other institutions that I work with today to be able to bring about awareness
It was a great pleasure seeing him work on the site. He was always focused. He made notes and he had such trained staff at his office that all the points that he would note down would be always looked into.
When I met him for the first time, it was such a beautiful experience for me to meet a man who was so smiling, conveying his things so beautifully to everybody. I heard him speak and it was a mesmerizing experience for me. Dr. Jain introduced me to Bharat, and Bharat for an air conditioning was something which was really amazing thing for me.
He set a goal of 1 billion square feet for the green footprint for IGBC, citing that we are 1 billion population and we should have 1 square feet for every person in India. And after a few years of achieving 1 billion, he said that we should achieve 10 billion square feet when India turns young at 75 in 2022.
I knew Dr. Jain for over 40 years when I started my company in 1979. Dr. Jain was already very established and a highly respected HVAC consultant who was at the forefront of giving the Indian HVAC industry shape and recognition throughout the world, more so in the US. We shared similar visions of strengthening the foundation of HVAC industry and engineers through knowledge dissemination, innovation, and green sustainable technologies.
There are few people in the world who leave a real living legacy. I was so honored and still am to have been and had Prem Jain as part of my life. Every day of my heart, I remember things he taught me and the legacy that he's left.
He committed his business, his energy, his time, his good name to making the world a better place. He directed his business to lead in energy efficiency, but he understood that we needed a green building movement of many more companies and practitioners to achieve our goals. We needed to train and support professional development with ISHRAE, and we needed conferences, workshops, and celebrations to advance our movement and achieve a green future. But the one thing that brought him the most joy was student education and competition. We all know how his face would light up as he announced the names of award-winning student projects. So it's a great honor and a joy to join you in helping to celebrate the life and passion of our dear friend, Prem Jain.
Well, what is interesting about this spectrum of people from across countries, continents, and industry segments is that they all speak of a sense of admiration which is immeasurable in their own minds. And there were very more people. It's just that given these constraints of a forum of this kind, we've chosen to put some of these champions from the world. Well, this marks the preliminary segment of the Prem Jain Memorial Address event of this afternoon. We now move to the three distinguished speakers, the master speakers of the day, who will be introduced by three equally distinguished, shall we say, felicitators. We begin with Mr. Shiv Khera's address. And like I said in the beginning, here is a man who is chosen today to speak from a hospital despite some challenges or the other that kept him there. And I request Mr. Kamaljeet Java, the Managing Director of Daikin, who's been a great supporter here and who brought Mr. Khera to this forum, to say a few words before we get Mr. Khera to address the gathering.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Payal, and all members of PJMT for giving me an opportunity to be part of Harit Prem Bharat Mahotsav. Each year, we all come together and celebrate to promote sustainability and love for Mother Nature. I still fondly remember Dr. Jain's love for his service to the environment, earning him a reputation as a green visionary and a title Father of Green Building Movement in India. Under Dr. Jain's environmental vision, we are tackling challenges associated with the reduction of greenhouse gas emission to net zero. Dr. Jain often used to say, our society is built upon the many blessings that nature gives us. The source of these blessings is biodiversity. We are all working to protect biodiversity through environmental contribution activities. Our life's goal always has been to contribute towards a sustainable built environment for all and promote sustainable choices with our products and services to our society. To continue with the session on, may I now introduce to you Mr. Shiv Khera, a friend, an author, a teacher, a free thinker, a motivator, and a change agent. These are the few words I can describe him, having known him for almost 30 years. Mr. Khera, having an impeccable personality, is known to have interacted across various cultures and forums internationally and is regarded as a humanitarian. Surprisingly, he always has a different perspective to looking at things, and that is what motivates everyone to do that extra in life, creating that big difference. You all know him. He is a world-renowned speaker and a guru. He is a brand ambassador of Roundtable Foundations. I am again looking forward to hearing him and understanding his perspective on how to make a comeback after setback of pandemic post-COVID. How to look at positivity, certainty, and sustainability in uncertain time. I'm confident that his words will open the unknown areas in our mind, leading to us gaining more focus, strength, and our purpose. I hereby now like to call upon my dear friend, Mr. Shiv Khera. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot for the kind words from Mr. Java. In fact, I owe a big thanks to Mr. Java for introducing me to the legendary Mr. Prem Jain. Otherwise, I would not have known of him at all. And the more I read on him, my respect for him went up, and I couldn't hold myself, and I called his daughter, Payal, who was nice enough to meet up with me. But let me just quickly come to the point. As somebody said, well, see, if you want to leave a legacy, either do something worth writing or write something worth doing. Well, I have written something worth doing, but Mr. Prem Jain has shown a way which is worth writing, so he's in a much higher pedestal than I am. But somebody said, well, when a child is born, who is rejoicing? The family. And who is crying? The child. But when we leave this world, it should be the other way around. We should be rejoicing and happy that we left this world a little better place than they found, and let them cry. And the world has become a little poorer today. And Mr. Jain has done that. He went happily smiling, and the world became a little poorer. But most important thing is, you see, when a good human being passes away, they don't die, they only depart. They live through their good deeds forever. Only rascals die, but good human beings only depart. And all I can say is, I heard one of the previous speakers say that he was a great mentor, and he got into teaching because of Mr. Prem Jain. And I learned one thing, that good leaders motivate and bad leaders manipulate their team. Good leaders create more leaders, and bad leaders create followers because they are so insecure. And Mr. Prem Jain, if he created more teachers, obviously through those teachers, he's passing his values to the many more generations as you go along. So what a service that he has done to the country. And finally, all I can say is, I just want to cut it very short because I cannot speak much. All I can say is, good leaders, winners make the days count and losers count the days. And Mr. Prem Jain certainly was a winner, and he made his days count by serving the country. And with those words, I would just take your leave and thank Mr. Java one more time. And Payal, you're keeping the legacy onwards, and you are leading the whole team, and count me as one of your soldiers in your mission that you are there, which your dad started. And God bless all of you. Thanks a lot. Have a good program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shivkera. That was amazing. You know, there is this book of the top 100 speeches in the world, and all of them were less than 280 words. And I think you beat that to probably 220 to 230 words. And those of you who are listening in there, all the youngsters, please read some of those remarkable writings of Mr. Shivkera. He's been on the firmament, the management firmament, for probably 25 years to 30 years. Inspired many leaders, corporate leaders, and organizational leaders. What he said, I'm not going to go into this, but what he said makes a great deal of difference. Reflect upon it, think about it. I will now call upon Mr. V. Suresh, the chairman of the Indian Green Building Council, the founder of Focus, the Forum of Critical Utility Services, many other things, who has also been on the National Building Code for probably 30 years now, to felicitate Mr. Pradeep Burman, another legend in his own lifetime who's been doing some amazing work across India. Over to you, Mr. V. Suresh.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chandra Hariharan. And we are going to have the keynote address to be given by Mr. Pradeep Burman. But before I do that, let me place on record a deep appreciation for what the management guru Shivkera could give through his inspiring address, which he just now gave, bringing new dimensions on the subject on the built environment sector. And let me proceed further with the introduction of Mr. Pradeep Burman. Mr. Pradeep Burman is the chairman of the Mobius Foundation, and he is an environmentalist and a social contributor and prolific business leader. He's a graduate in mechanical engineering from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Boston, USA, and he established the Mobius in 2015, which is a non-profit organization working for environmental sustainability and betterment of the society. And further, Aegis is a company founded by Pradeep Burman, which is dedicated solely to provide hydroponic greenfield throughout the year for contributing towards sustainable energy. Further, he also established Sandesh to enhance the quality of life for thousands of urban and rural poor in India, with a strategic focus on improving nutrition, fostering healthy communities, and promoting diversity. Mr. Burman's passion and drive towards environmental protection and social welfare does not end here, as he is making some significant contribution through the following entities, which is Ayurveda Limited, which is blending herbal knowledge with scientific technologies to cater to a variety of animal species, Sanath products, manufacturers and products, pharmaceuticals and nutraceutical, as well as cosmeceutical and herbal extracts. While understanding that sustainable education is at the heart of environmental protection, an essential step has been taken by Pradeep Burman and team called as the World Environmental School at Coorg, the school that aims to inculcate holistic understanding of sustainable living and environment welfare. Another interesting and close to heart of Burman Saab is ICSC, International Conference for Sustainable Education, and this conference will discuss the need to incorporate education as well as sustainability, climate change, education and environmental education in student life. It's a very important component. What a great personality we have in Mr. Pradeep Burman, who is going to give the keynote address. May I now invite Dr. Pradeep Burman to give us the keynote address.
It is indeed a great pleasure for me and a great honor to speak at the Dr. Prem Jain Memorial Trust gathering, this August gathering that it is. I was also overwhelmed when I saw all the activities which were planned for the 7 days for the Mahotsav. And then I received a little book about Dr. Prem Jain and how he became the father of the green buildings and what his thoughts were. Those were also great inspiration. Whatever is being done is for sustainability of the planet. And this is a source of inspiration for all of us. My journey for sustainability started during my college days when there was a meeting of over 100 scientists and thinkers in Rome, which came to be known as the Club of Rome. This resulted in a book called The Limits to Growth, which you can see on the screen. The conclusion in the book was that the world was not sustainable, and the first thing to hit us would be air pollution. And sure enough, it is the air pollution which is bothering us the most. I was also inspired later on by An Inconvenient Truth. It's a documentary that was awarded an Oscar, the only documentary, the first documentary to be awarded an Oscar. So I then formed the Mobius Foundation to carry this thing forward. It is absolutely, completely for sustainable development and working towards the environment sustainability. Now, instead of working on the 16 development goals, sustainable development goals, we thought we'd concentrate on 2 and do a little bit of the others, whatever that has to be done. So education and population stabilization is the main focus of the Mobius Foundation. As you can see, why it was called the Mobius Foundation is after a mathematician called Mr. Mobius, who was after whom the Mobius strip is named. Now you can see the ball rolling, and it starts from one surface and ends on to the other surface. It comes back to the same place without falling off. And that's what sustainability, to me, that's what it was about. So I named this the Mobius Foundation. Our team is led by Dr. Ram Bhuj. I think all of you know about him, but with his rich and diverse professional experience of working with the United Nations, the government, academic, and development organizations, he is surely bringing forward a new dimension and vision to the environment and sustainability programs of the foundation. So we are proud to have him as the Chief Executive Officer to take this forward. This is a screen showing our projects and programs that the Mobius Foundation is doing. There's a project Akar, which is on the population stabilization. There is Jnananand Vidyalaya, which is on education side. And ICSC was the first event that we had to bring the education into focus. WES is called the World Environment School, perhaps the first school to be called that, the World Environment School, which will have some special features which other schools don't have. And then there is a project Sanjeevni, which it is a smaller, much smaller project, which is to plant trees every year. But the real difference here is that we'll make communities responsible for looking after the trees. And then we are starting what is called Mission Sustainability. That we are partnering with a major TV channel to bring awareness about the various effects of overpopulation. As you all know, the population of India was 350 million when we had independence, and today it is at least 4 times as much. With the same amount of land, we are actually encroaching on the habitat and causing problems for ourselves. So this will try to bring awareness among the general public and the nation about what the population issue is about and what we should do to contain it. The first thing that I want to talk about is the International Conference on Sustainability Education, which we held on 9th and 10th September of 2019. We had 30 partners from various countries in this landmark event. We had over 700 participants and 15 parallel sessions. 70 technical papers were presented, which will be now published. And we had 25 exhibition stalls from various organizations, and we awarded a prize for the best poster thing that was presented. Our major project, of course, is the launch of the World Environment School, which is still to take place. After 2 years, we are nowhere closer to starting this school than we were at that time when we had this conference. So one of the projects is the Akar project. The Akar project that we have is on population stabilization, and it has picked 2 of the high TFRs in UP. There are more in Bihar also like that, but the 2 of the highest in UP is Barabanki and Bhairach. And this project, what we did is to focus the awareness on the population to newly married couples and to-be married couples on being able to recognize why you should control the first child after 2 years and have a space of minimum 3 years before the second child. So this is working very well for the last 2 years, and we plan now to continue it with Sitapur district, Gonda district, and Shravasti district. These are all high TFR areas which have about close to 3 is the total fertility rate. So along with our project Akar, we made a film, because films were shown inside the villages in the Barabanki district, and we won an award for the best campaign of the year in the Flame Awards. Project Sanjeevani I want to talk about is the community, involving the community where my factory is of Ayurved in Haryana, involving that community in planting trees and involving the school children to plant the trees and look after them for a year. And we check again after a year how many trees have survived. Our mission sustainability is the slogan is population versus planet. In my opinion, actually the population has increased so much of the whole planet that even 5 planets will not be able to sustain it if we consume like what the US is consuming per capita. the amount of energy that is being used, the amount of air pollution that is being done, the amount of biodiversity that is being lost, and the amount of waste which is being generated. These are all affecting our sustainability of the planet, and we plan to run a whole year to make people aware about what are the problems which this increase in population. And we will take each section that we talk about demographic dividend because of the huge young people that we have. Surely it is a demographic dividend, but it's also a disaster if we can't find jobs for them. If you can't find jobs for people, then empty minds will be a devil's workshop, and we will be in trouble. So all these are the various headings under which we will focus the attention what the population increase in India is causing. I also am very keen to show you something about what David Attenborough has to say about the population and the pandemic. So if we can...
Scientists believe that our destructive relationship with nature is actually putting us at greater risk of pandemic diseases.
We're behind every single pandemic, and it's human impact on the environment that drives emerging diseases. The wildlife trade is at unprecedented levels. We have huge markets with tens of thousands of live animals shedding their viruses through feces and urine, being killed in front of you. It's my view that it's our relationship with nature and the way we interact with it that drove the emergence of COVID.
If we continue on our current pathway, then what we've experienced this year might not be a one-off event.
We estimate there are going to be 5 new emerging diseases affecting people every year. We cannot live with that and the rate at which they're increasing and crashing our economies. If we have one of these every decade.
So that is the reason we are in the pandemic, and this film brings it out very well, that we shall be perhaps experiencing a new pandemic every year if we continue the way that we are continuing. Now, the reason for this particular slide to show you this is our main thrust is on education. And on education is the World Environment School. And this is the first thing that we looked at when building the school, is to make sure that the buildings themselves would be green buildings. The concept for the World Environment School, that how that World Environment School will be different from any other school. We have many, many green schools which are around. Our main concept, first of all, it had to be residential. And the difference between this school and any other school would be that the students would come across main items which are used for sustaining the planet, such as recycling and reusing. We are going to keep cattle over there so that the students will come in touch with the compost and recycling and producing fertilizers and biogas. Vegetable patches are there so that the students must be in touch with nature, to respect nature. The objective of the whole World Environment School would be to produce those committed leaders in sustainable practices so that they can influence others and become climate warriors in the end themselves. These are some of the key features of the World Environment School, since I say that it's going to be one of a kind, and it's a model which anybody can copy or do if they wish. But we want it to be a model that others can come and see, and perhaps introduce some of the features in any school which they sort of built. What we had to do there was that since it's based in Coorg, I bought a coffee plantation, exclusively to build the school. And the first thing the architect told me that we have to have the cutting and filling and cutting and filling, and not disturb the land as little as possible. It was also to be a net zero campus. That means zero energy. That means all the energy that we use should be generated from the school itself. Then a water independent campus, that all the water that we use should be from the campus itself. A zero waste campus, that whatever was wasted had to be reused and recycled. These are all concepts that we had to do. We really don't know when we actually do it where we will be standing on that zero waste campus. Because certainly the plastics that we use will have to be recycled and will have to be sent out to be recycled. 100% fresh air campus means no air conditioning, and therefore we would not be having any carbon footprint. So a carbon positive campus. Then we also have to make sure that it would be universally accessible, and all the campus we could walk, we could cycle, or be connected by electric cars. But one of the main features of this school would be the establishment of a Devkadu. Devkadu is particularly well known in the Coorg district, where it is known as the Garden of the Gods, as literally known as the Garden of the Gods. There, each village has Devkadu, where they grow medicinal plants, and also it would have 10 acres where we would plant the indigenous trees. As you might be aware, that Coorg is also in the Western Ghats of India, which are really ecologically sensitive. And therefore, we would be planting indigenous trees which are in the Western Ghats of India. Some of the other key features of the World Environment School was due to the restricted access to the site, the roof design was all made to a glue lamp design. Landslides, which are a major problem because people have been cutting trees and building fancy what you call the spas and centers over there in Coorg, which is famous for those spas over there, and causing a lot of landslides. And we had to build around the rosewood trees, which were not to be cut down. And so the classes and everything had to be built around that as far as possible. Of course, we had to clear the other trees around and native species. But we would definitely be having a nursery where we would be growing the native species and planting the species there. The other key feature would be the entire sewage would be recycled, and we would be using the treated water for irrigation, and the sludge to be converted to manure. I was very impressed with this particular video, which shows how 18-story building was built in 9.5 weeks using the glue lamp construction. And at the end, it shows you what was the carbon footprint of making this building. compared to what you would in a concrete building. Yeah. This is the end result of what is the carbon footprint of making this 18-storied building. Now, another thing for the World Environment School is what we did is to have a special curriculum made for the school since we wanted the students to get in touch with recycling measures. So we thought that this should be a part of the curriculum with each class. Let's say if class 6, we would have during their spare time have a project on these items which are listed over here, on food and agriculture, on energy and environment, on biodiversity, etc. And with increasing order of complexity as we went on to class 12. And the development of that curriculum was done by Mr. Karthik Sarabhai of CEE, the Center for Environment Education, which has also done over 7,000 students that they have been teaching. So you have something of that? No, okay. But they have been here for 36 years, and they are well known for taking sustainability to the schools, teaching them about all the necessary things for sustainability. The other item for the ICSE 2019 we wanted to focus on was the youth, because youth are the inheritors of the planet. And we had 5 special sessions specifically for the youth. Like you can see over there, Teddy organized one session, and then we had the Sustainable Development Network, and 2 of them were done by our partners, the Climate Reality Project India. I think there were over 100 students from Australia that came and attended this particular session run by Climate Reality Project India, which is the initiative by Mr. Al Gore. So we also had the FEE,
the Foundation for Environment Education, which runs over 70,000 schools worldwide, participate in this conference to let us know what are the things that we need to do for sustainability education. These are two papers which newsletter prepared in one day by the young reporters for the environment. And this is just to show you what they could do in one day. The next day it was produced and presented to all of us. So after that ICSE 2019, what we did was a Youth for Earth campaign. Now this meant that we asked the youth to make projects on sustainability. Now we received 52 entries of projects from all parts of the globe, and of which 15 projects were shortlisted. The best project was awarded to student of Infant Jesus, Kalpakam, Tamil Nadu on the 10th September 2020, who developed a cost-effective food composter called Circus to process food waste and convert it into compost. I'd like to show a short video about their project.
Food waste is a serious environmental concern in the aspect of waste management. At our school, we were facing growing problems due to its poor management. Students were disposing it in the dustbins meant for recyclable wastes and even in open spaces. This led to too much inconvenience. The food waste disposed in the open spaces led to a bad smell, in addition to attracting unwanted animals into the school premises. Whereas the food waste disposed in the dustbins, along with our recyclable wastes, created a stench and also hampered the recycling process of other wastes. We decided to solve this problem at our school with our own solution. We had conceptualized and developed a sustainable school model for our district science exhibition. Taking reference from that, we ventured into developing our own solution to manage food waste. We decided to make the best of it and convert our school's food waste into compost. Then we started experimenting. With guidance from our teachers, we made our own bokashi composter and started composting in our houses. We also got insights from our housekeeping aunties who play a major role in keeping our school campus clean. Based on these learnings, we started building a food composter for our school. Due to our budget constraints, and to ensure sustainability, we collected freely available resources such as used metal barrel, punctured tire tubes, etc. to build our composter. We got help from a welder Anna in our community to help us with the welding work involved in our design. But we did everything else by ourselves. Finally, after all the hard work, we got our food composter ready and we named it Turkus.
So that was the best project, which we gave them a certificate and some cash reward also as a winner of the entire project. We intend to continue this every year and award the best project for the youth over there. One other thing that we are doing, this is entirely for the rural areas, which we have built a school in the Hapur district in the village Athroli. We wanted to bring sustainability issues to this school, and we had to start off first of all with having our own buildings, green buildings. So that was rated as IGBC Platinum rated by ICBC. And these are some of the things that we did. I'll show you some pictures of this also. But these are some of the things that we did for the school. Only the rooftop panels are there, solar panels to feed into the grid. The school has started, but unfortunately, due to this COVID thing, everything is done online and nobody is coming to the school. So, but the school is ready and we've done online everything. Our partner for the Green Campus program, which we have, is the Climate Reality Project, as I mentioned earlier, that they have a quick assessment of schools which they visit. They see the clean energy, biodiversity, air quality, waste management, and water conservation, and rate the school as how green they are by just on these 5 parameters. And I think they've done over 50 schools already and given them ratings. If they don't get a full green rating, then they work on any one of these 5 parameters to give it a green rating. The same partner, the Climate Reality Project on climate change, they are involved in training teachers, and they've trained over 7,500 teachers on climate change. We think that this is the best way of getting the message across for sustainability into the schools, is train the teachers on the climate change, and then to assess how effective they are. Then we take again, meet with them every year and see how they progressed in each of the districts wherever they are working. Now, I want to end with a message for youth. This is Greta Thunberg, who's making a lot of impact in Europe for this. A similar effort by the youth can be made here in India to inspire the rest of the youth to make a greener campus, to make a greener planet, because they're going to inherit that tomorrow. The youth needs to be energized. So I'm just showing this as an example, what is being done in Europe and how they are being inspired by this one. We have one here also in India, but at the moment that impact is not there. Right. Thank you very much for your patient listening for so long. That's the end of my presentation.
Mr. Pradeep Burman, it was possibly one of the most powerful share of thoughts that I have heard in recent times. I thought you were from the pharmaceutical sector. You're talking about population, you're talking about primary education, you're talking about healthcare. You're coming, and then you're talking about a demonstrated building with resources that are at the net zero energy level. You've put to shame some of those people who are working now in the IGBC or in other sectors of that kind, with those very, very compelling blends of both pragmatic and visionary challenges that you've taken upon yourself. The other I must say is thank you, Mr. Kamal Mittal, for getting us Mr. Burman today. I know that the two of you are, know each other very well, and you didn't want to actually be felicitating him, and so we had to request Mr. V. Suresh to come in. To the lot of you who are listening to this, all you youngsters, first I will tell you this, that if you heard it carefully enough, and if you absorbed some of those insights that you offered, you might want to share those, by the way, at the hashtags HVBM21 or PJMT or Walk the Green or Dream the Green. But more than all that, remember what he said about the population challenge that we have before us. We know we all have 140 crore people today, 137 to 140 crore. 1947 saw us having about 36 crore people. As Mr. Burman said, we have come some 4 times and over from then to now in 73 years. You must also remember this. This 140 crore is more or less the figure in China today, which has got about 2.5 times our landmass. We are 3.3 million square kilometers. You must also remember that Africa has got 10 times our landmass, and they have the same 140 crore. So as Mr. Burman said, and remember this again, the challenge clearly before India is that it does not have the natural resources or the landmass that other parts of the world have got. And it's all the more reason that you shape and carve and mold your careers in ways that you are bringing those powerful forces of efficiency, shall we say, natural resource efficiency. Because without that, you don't have a future. And we believe that you are the future of the country in ways that you can take this forward. Now it's time that I brought in the last speaker, the last master speaker of the day. And may I request Dr. V.K. Paul of the School of Planning and Architecture to offer some few words about Brinda Somaya before she speaks. Over to you, Mr.
Having got motivational note from Mr. Shiv Kheda and great inspiring words from Mr. Pradeep Burman, I now have the pleasure to introduce Madam Brinda Somaya, architect and conservationist. An alumnus of JJ School of Architecture, Mumbai, she completed her Masters of Arts degree from Smith College, US. She currently heads Somaya and Kalapa Consultants. Her journey into the world of architecture can be traced back to 1978 with Parley Products Factory, and since then she has been making an indelible mark through her architectural excellence. Madam Somaya has regularly featured in architecture and design magazines. In fact, giving her introduction is never going to be an easy challenge, and I do admit that my research is still incomplete. Besides her practice, Madam Somaya has served on many positions, some of them being member of editorial board of Marg Architectural Books, member of Committee of Environment Impact Assessment of new construction projects and new industrial estates for the Ministry of Environment, Forest, Government of India. She has been member of Urban Heritage Conservation Committee. She is the chairperson of Board of Governors of School of Planning and Architecture, Vijayawada. Her architectural work speaks of her passion for design and creating unique signature spaces. Her passion for design and responsible practice can be judged from her quote that I found, and it says, "The architect's role is that of a guardian. He or she is the conscious of the built and the unbuilt environment. I am an Indian, and what I am comes from my heritage. It is an intrinsic part of my being and will naturally reflect in my work in many ways." Ladies and gentlemen, this is in so much in tune with what Dr. Jain promoted always as the tradition of Bharat. At another place, she quotes, "I recall as a child my parents taking us on a long journey to Nalanda. The bricks ruins had a deep impression on me. I remember having discussions with my mother and about the long hours archaeological works that I saw. Again, if I drop passion for Indian traditions, Dr. Jain always connected with Ghats of Banaras. Indeed, India and Indian traditions have unfathomable potential for inspiration. With this brief introduction, I invite Madam Brinda Sumaya to share her thoughts with us today. Madam Brinda Sumaya, please.
Good afternoon, all of you. I would first like to thank Dr. Paul for his very kind introduction. I would also like to thank Payal for this invitation to me and Dr. Hariharan as well. And looking forward to all the students who will be there today on this platform. Regarding Dr. Jain, there are some people whom you remember when you first met them for whatever reason. And there are some people whom you don't remember because you feel you have always known them. And I think that's been the case with me and Dr. Jain. I cannot recall when I first met him. Of course, my studio SNK has worked with Spectral over the years, but it wasn't like there was one particular moment. It seems he was always there, larger than life, with his smiling face, a great purpose and seriousness behind it, and encouraging all of us to do our very best in this relatively new area that he was coming into and sharing with all of us. So I would like to thank the Prem Jain Memorial Trust and Mrs. Payal Jain, founder trustee, for inviting me as the master speaker today. Throughout my practice of over 4 decades, my personal beliefs and ideas of a sustainable practice in a country like India is complex because India is like many countries, it's as big as Europe without Russia. I have built from the Himalayas to the south of India, from Bengal to Kutch, and through the central plains and heart of our country, from Jharkhand to Indore, and from Uttaranchal to Kodagu. The building types have included reconstruction of villages to high-tech campuses, from orphanages and animal hospitals to state-of-the-art corporate headquarters, from the village school to the most elite schools in the city, from conserving iconic heritage buildings to converting garbage dumps into parks. So that is why today I'm going to share with you what I believe is sustainable. I do not believe that it is just necessarily getting points or getting awards or anything like that. It is something that has to be part of every aspect of an architect or an engineer's life. And it has to be right from the beginning of a project till the end of the project. I'll just turn to the next one. So our ancient scriptures have always told us to tread the land lightly. And I think that is a belief which I've had from the very first building I designed 40 years ago. This was long before green became such an important word in an architect's practice. And here you can see what Dr. Jain has said about green buildings. It is so clear what he believed were the living examples of sustainable green buildings. So apart from treading the land lightly for new buildings we build, it is important to understand that recycling and restoration of our existing built heritage is also equally important. To quote Richard Moore, preservation is one of the most sustainable aspects of building. Preservation. He was the president of the National Trust for Historic Preservation, and about how preservationists cite the embodied energy present in existing structures as one rationale that allies their cause with the green movement. So we are all aware that buildings produce an almost half of all carbon emissions. The energy required to build 800,000 square feet of building would be 7 million gallons of gasoline. In addition, more waste of energy to tear down, cut off, and rebuild a new building in the place of an old building. So at this time of economic and climatic change, architects need to understand the value of retrofitting and re-architecture.
We have a huge body of existing buildings which need to be adapted for the new generations ahead. So we have to tread the land lightly. We have to recycle our vast resources of old buildings that we have. So what is going to happen? What do we believe that the style of architecture will be? What will our 21st century be remembered for? Will it be remembered for devastation of the climatic conditions that we see around us and which earlier speakers have spoken about? What about all the waste and the trash that we are creating, not just on our land, but under our sea, under our waters, in our oceans? Will it be for the ignorant construction methodology and practices that we are building soulless cities and soulless buildings all over our country? Or can it be something special? Can it be sustainable for a new style of architecture? I don't like to use the word style, but what I mean is architecture that encompasses the revival of regional and vernacular styles, coupled with preservation and retrofitting of existing structures. Because architecture, like civilization, is dynamic and evolving. While exciting architecture is being built all over the world and expanding the vocabulary of contemporary architecture, we have to find our balance in design, enabling us to be part of new creative experiments, but also to understand what has gone before. So green is not just a color. That's very, very important. It is much more than that. We have to understand what is sustainability for each one of us, and not necessarily just the people who are experts in that. Every single architect of the 160,000 or so that we may have, and the thousands of engineers, young and middle-aged and older, that are working in our country, it should be part of everyday life that we talk about and that we live in. So it does not mean seeing things in isolation. We have to look at things holistically. Green does not mean that. And green does also not mean ticking off a list that you've got a solar system, you've got a wind, you've taken care of waste, or you've taken care of some sort of energy, and we put solar panels somewhere. It's not about the list. And this is what I feel is most important. We have to go way beyond that tick off list that certain, certain certificates give us, for instance. It's got to be something that's much deeper and much more solid within each one of us. So we have to learn from our past as well. We have to understand what is it that went before us. You can see in ancient tradition in India, whether it was Mandu, how they took care of water, how they take care of wind, how they took care of the sun. We have to go back and understand our traditional knowledge as well and combine it with modern technology. That's what's important. It's not one or the other. How do we create this balance within everything that we do and that we live and that we work on and that we build and that we design? So today I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of my projects and how I have approached what we call sustainable. There are some things that each studio believes in. For me, it was the materials that we use. We have to take materials that are close by, near where we are building if possible. We have to use pergolas. We know about the sun, shade, and the wind in our country. How do we create vernacular architecture in a contemporary way with courtyards? And we understand the harmony and balance that comes out of that. How do we use water as an element to create cool like Mandu did? So these are all basic ideas and thoughts that have to come into our practice. As I said, it's not a tick off, 1, 2, 3. It is a whole way of thinking. It's a whole approach to architectural design that we have to look at today if we have to save our country, as the previous speaker said. So I begin with a few projects very quickly, and I'm using the mural painters of the Varli. These Varli artists, they are tribal people who live in Maharashtra and in Gujarat. And look at the way they live and look at the way they have their crafts, their art, and their lifestyle. What could be more sustainable with every aspect of what they do? It goes back to almost 3,000 years. What do? They believe in the circle, which is the sun and the moon, that's nature. They have the triangle, which are the mountains and the trees. And they have the square or the sacred enclosure, which is the piece of land which they have. And that's what they build. And so their walls are made out of a mixture of branches, earth, and cow dung. They make a red ochre background for the wall paintings, and they use white. It's a pigment made of rice and paste to decorate their houses, to bring in crafts into their houses. And they use a bamboo stick as a paintbrush. So I'm not saying we can all do that, because today in India we have, and this is a statistic from 2011, I couldn't find anything later than that. We have over 650,000 villages, we have 8,000 plus towns, and we have almost 500 cities. So how do you as an architect, how do you have to learn to work across all these cross sections in a sensitive manner? So I've just chosen a few of my projects which go from village to town to city. And I talk about another way that we looked at sustainability. So for the village, I have chosen two. This was a small village outside Mumbai where they had a temple and they had flower sellers. The flower sellers had occupied the plaza in front of the temple and they were not moving. And they wanted to redo the plaza. So the trustees built them their shops somewhere nearby, and all of them refused to move. So the picture on the top shows how they were in the plaza. And they came to me and they said, we built them these wonderful new shops, but not one of them is moving. Why? Can you come and help us? So I went to them and I spoke to them and I asked them why they weren't moving. And they said, because nobody asked us what we wanted. We are flower sellers. We do not sell our flowers every day, what we buy. We need to keep them overnight. So we cannot have our shops touching the ground. We have to have our base of our shops elevated. And below the shops, we have to have the storage space, which is cool and dark. And the flowers overnight are kept there so that the next day we can use and sell those flowers again. But nobody asked them what they want. So the first thing is you have to ask the user. You have to understand what is it that people want. And often you will find that what they want is the most sustainable way of doing things because they have to live with their decisions. It's not something that's put on top by somebody else. So all we did, we redesigned the shops. We made a section, you can see over here on top for the architects, where we created storage space below. They all moved to their shops and we were able to redo the plaza. Such a simple solution. In 2000, going back again to the village projects, there was a huge earthquake, as you know, and in Bhuj, in Kutch, and a village that was completely devastated by this earthquake. So one of our clients came to us and asked us to help with that village where 90% had been devastated. You can see the school had gone, the kitchens and the homes of the people had gone, the workshops had gone. This picture of India was in the school. And we went around the village and we took certain decisions. What the government was doing was the picture to the right. They were taking a parcel of land on the other side of the road of many of the devastated villages and building these sort of houses. And we knew from the Latur earthquake that people didn't want that. What people wanted was to rebuild and live again in the same piece of land next to their same neighbors. So again, it comes down asking people, what do you want? Instead of wasting money and building a whole lot of houses where nobody wants to go. They said it's January, it was Republic Day, for some of you may recall, but they said it's okay, we'll sleep out in the cold air and we will wait, but we want to come back to the same plot of land. So we did a survey of the village and then we rebuilt the houses. But how did we do that rebuilding? We used all the debris from the earthquake And we got the people of the village to build their own houses. We did not bring in outside contractors because we had to revive the entire depression that had taken place in the village. So that's sustainability. We created jobs for them by asking them to rebuild their own house and then their neighbor's house, and we paid them for their labor. And the client and the NGO got the materials at a very reasonable cost. That's how we rebuilt the entire village. So we reused the old material. We saved all the doors. There were no windows there. They used mainly grills. We saved all the doors, which not only saved us a lot of money, but gave a sense of identity to the new houses that were being built, which you can see to the right. They were beautiful doors because they're all craftsmen. So we kept that sense of identity, and the sense of community was not lost. And then they were very artistic. So we provided them the materials to repaint their houses. And you can see over here some images of the houses after we completed building them. So these were the important things. And then we rebuilt the school as well. And here a farmer gave part of his land so that we could build a bigger school. The school was built very simply, very economically. We had the pergolas and we had all the basic ideas and thoughts of building in a sustainable manner. You can see that over here, the materials used, the holes for ventilation. Of course, there's no air conditioning and things like that over there, but everything works well. It's so cool. And the villagers are so proud of their school. And then the village gets motivated. So the people of the village began to think, as you know, whenever there's an earthquake, saline water starts to come up. So we had to create water management. How do we do it? We had to actually create a tank so that fresh water could be brought in over there. And now if you go, you'll find solar energy on the roofs. They won a prize for replanting the most number of trees. They have international technology. They do bandhani work, and they sell it all over the world. And this is an article that came out in the New York Times. So what it shows is, what is sustainability about? It's about involving the community, the people who provide the funds, but most important, the people who use the buildings, the people who are going to be there, because they are the ones who are going to stay on after we architects go away and we engineers disappear and we environmentalists are not there. They have to sustain their building. They have to make sure that it is sustainable. So you can see over here, these are some other images of the village. We rebuilt the rooms for the women who work, for the gentlemen over here, for the bandhani dyeing. And it was a very interesting village because it was a 60-40. It wasn't sort of half and half Hindu and Muslim majority. Like most of the villages there, if it was a Muslim majority, we had Muslim trust looking after. If it was a Hindu majority, we had Hindu trust looking after. This village had an unusual balance, and it was so unique because the whole village got together, they rebuilt the dargah, they rebuilt the temple, and they worked together as a community. And we had this wonderful woman, Chanda Ben, who was the sarpanch of the village and who supported me. She used to make, when I used to go for the meetings in the village, she would make me come and sit on a charpai, give me raw mango and chanas, and then give me some purple drink, which I was, of course, petrified to drink, but dare not upset her. So it was a wonderful experience in many, many different ways. And then they made the houses into homes. So we gave them the basic houses. They added a floor, or they added an otla, or they added a veranda in front. So that's how you convert a house to a home. And this is a picture of Mezzabine when I went in 2002. She was one of the little girls who was sleeping in the cold, in the open air. And in 2006, when I went back, she was going to school, to the village school that we had built. And when we went in 2016, she wasn't there because she had gone to the next village to enter junior college. So the most appropriate solutions are brought about by the least authoritarian approach. This is what I want to say, where the professional becomes a catalyst, just a catalyst in the development process. Now to come to the town. This is a school. I think we heard a lot about schools before. This is a school we built in Baroda. The The patron of the school was very Gandhian in his thoughts and thinking. He wanted a school that the children would look after. That's a picture of me down with a red circle when I was 8 years old and I went to Nalanda Monastery. And the idea of the bricks and the ruins was always in my mind of how people lived those days and how they built those days. And when the client came to me and said the name of his school was Nalanda, I was really, really excited because that I knew in my mind what I wanted to do. So it's a school of over 200,000 square feet in 12 acres. And we treaded the land very, very lightly, which is very important. We used traditional methods of brick, and it wasn't just cosmetic. We actually located ancient craftsmen who could, and workers who could build the brick vaults. Brick was something that was easily available in Gujarat, so we did not have to import some expensive stone from some other part of India. We used the local bricks, the local craftsmen, and we did many things to make this sustainable. There were a series of courtyards which worked very well. And the children, the classrooms around each courtyard, the children of that area had to keep it clean, including the bathrooms, the toilets, the courtyard. We planted trees in the courtyard, and that provided great cool. So there was a primary, secondary, and tertiary strength to the buildings. We had corridors which were shaded. We had double walls to keep out the heat and keep out the cold. We perforated all the parapets you can see over here. Some rooms had the jalis so that air could flow through. We planted a lot of trees nearby. You can see over here the trees that we planted. So these were all basic ideas of sustainability. And all 200,000, the school is now over a decade old. Nothing is air conditioned except the computer rooms and the principal's, headmaster's room, because they almost expect it to be air conditioned. So that's what we're talking about. How do we ventilate? How do we manage? Everybody can't afford, we can't build glass boxes and then air condition them and then say we're green. To me, that's not the solution. How do we make it basically sustainable in our villages and in our towns and in our cities? More difficult because we go high rise. But there are ideas, there are thoughts, and there are options. We planted a lot of trees nearby, air was flowing through everywhere. And even the courtyards were designed in such a way that when the sun moved, there was always part of the courtyard that was in shade for the children to sit and have their open day or whatever it was. So you can see lots of corners, lots of shady corners where they could collect and have fun. These were some of the jalis and grills that we did. And even in the junior school, we used just pigment to create the courtyards, very, very inexpensive materials. The school was built very, very inexpensively. And as we went to the bigger and bigger schools, from the baby school to the junior, to the middle, to the senior, the courtyards got bigger, the corridors got wider, and more trees were planted. And that's what I believe is sustainability. And here you can see the sun breakers creating, instead of having a huge auditorium, which is air conditioned, this is the school auditorium. It's open to the sky, it's got the shade, and it's got a stage of brick. And this is where they do all their plays. So that's, over here you can see pictures of that the children love the school. They send me drawings and pictures of their work. So obviously, architecture has to also raise your spirit apart from everything else. This was another project, the second project in a town. It was a remote part of Rajasthan called Kumbhalgarh, where you have an enormous, beautiful, magnificent fort. And the reason I'm showing it is because I believe whenever we go to any part of the country and build, after that, the people whom we leave behind have to feel happy that we came there. They have to feel pleased that we came and built, that we improved their lives by coming to that place, not destroyed their lives. So Kumbhalgarh, there was a small hotel, which we did not break down. But of course, the Mahindras, they were building a resort. It had to be larger. Naturally, we built it very low. We built it very, very carefully. You can see some of the images. We believed it had to melt into the landscape as far as possible. So first thing we did is we didn't break anything down. We restored and upgraded whatever was already on the site. And then we used the local labor and the local artisans as far as possible. We built the walls of the local stone without mortar, all the walls going round like was traditionally done decades and decades ago to separate farmers' fields from each other. And then we brought in color naturally to the Aravali Hills. And then you can see we used all local materials for the stone, for the flooring, for the arches that we created, for the decorations in the rooms, the peacock, of course, which is all over that area, became a very important symbol. And we used all the terraces, we greened them all, so we cooled them. Below that were the conference rooms. And we found, and we let the craftsmen do what they like. And people were wondering, you know, I didn't want to buy something from Indonesia or Thailand and put that furniture in. So we said, we'll use local things. And it's been a great success. People love it because that's what we are. You know, we are part of a great country. We have such great traditions. It should not just be left for the craftsmen who are struggling to survive, but we as architects and designers must take the craftsmen, bring them into our world and use them for our projects as well. Now we come to the last part, which is the city. And I've chosen a few projects here. Mumbai is my city. I've lived here most of my life. This was opposite in an old part of South Mumbai. It was actually a garbage dump, and there were few PWD houses there. And a group of people got together, and with the help of the Tatas, a corporate group, they gave us the money to convert this garbage dump into a garden. And why it was so important was this was the first public-private partnership of a garden in Mumbai. And after this, we have had many, many. So in urban areas, we have to think differently. It's not a village, it's not a town. How do you work? You have to work with the bureaucrats. You have to get political support, which is always not easy at all, very difficult. And you have to work with the people around that area. This piece of land had slums on one side, towers on another, and bungalows on the third. So the people who would come to this park would be from all economic divides. And that's what was so wonderful. So when the BMC wanted to charge some money, I absolutely refused. I said, no, this was one of our pro bono jobs. We said, we're not going to do it if you're going to charge them. And it's these children who have benefited the most. You can see here how it was and how we made it, because we created a jogging track. Below you see a little gazebo, because they don't always have electricity in the slum. And also there's so many of them in a room, as you know, from the pandemic. And we created a place where they could study at night. And we created a place for the children from the high rises. And we also used all the water, the gray water from the high rises, treated. We used that for the gardening and for the irrigation system of the garden. Today, it's beautiful. Unfortunately, a metro is coming very close, so a lot of it has been dug up. This was an amphitheater to talk about drugs and any other problematic issues. We have artwork in. And what's lovely, if you look carefully, you will see at the back of the picture the three women from the fishermen area now, and how they come and they sit on the ground. And I thought that was so wonderful. We have benches, but this is what they do. And here is a young boy, their son, who's just enjoying it. So this is the urban spaces that we need to provide. This second project is how embodied energy of a building is so important. We cannot destroy. I talked about this in my introduction. And Tata Consultancy Services had this wonderful old building in the heart of South Mumbai. They came to me and asked me to convert it into their international headquarters. Positioned as it was with a beautiful mallard stone, I knew we could not break it down. But the entire interiors had collapsed over the years. They had structural issues. So we very boldly and bravely said we will keep the entire perimeter of the stone and we will redo the building from inside. I said it quite simply, but it turned out to be very, very challenging. We had to dismantle everything and then build up from down, but we did it. In fact, once there was a cyclone and I was really worried where the next morning I would see that the that the walls of the building, the Malad stone walls, whether there was any issue. Of course, we had protected them very carefully. We had tied them down, and it was a very tight site. So how do you build? But the most important thing is this is what sustainability is about. We did not destroy it. We did not waste that stone. We did not throw it away and bring in new concrete and cement to build another building. We saved every inch of the perimeter of that building, and we rebuilt from inside. And this is a picture to the right after restoration. But not only did we do that, we made the interiors contemporary. We made them relevant. The air conditioning system that we brought in, of course, this is where, Dr. Jain and all of you have done so much. We made sure that it worked for today and would work for the next 30, 40, 50, 60 years, and that it would be a building that the company and the corporate would be proud of. We found a lot of old furniture you can make out from the table and chairs and the wooden paneling. We removed everything very carefully, polished it, and put it back into the same areas. So again, sustainability covers everything from the embodied energy to the table that you found that might be 100 years old that you want to reuse again. It also means recycling and adaptive reuse. And this is a street in Mumbai. I've shown it because there are 3 projects we did here, and each one connected with sustainability in different ways. This was part of the old Kamla Mills. It was a creche. Our client bought it. And you can see just within this red, we have done 4 projects, each one so different as the cities change in our country. The cities are all the time changing. So this was, we converted it into an office building for the office area for them, keeping the mass the same. We did not change the relationship of the building to the road, which was so important. You can see before, after, and again, before, after. That shows even from something that looks like the upper left picture, you can do something worthwhile. You can make it into something worthwhile. You can have a garden around it in the heart of Mumbai if you choose to do so, but you must want to choose to do so. That's what sustainability is. This was another big shed. It was again a textile mill. The client came to us. You can see the cement bags on the left. Said he wanted to make it into an institutional space. We said we don't need so much. We will take some of the space. And we made an institutional campus right within that cement shed. It was so successful as a TV shooting that eventually I think the institute closed down and they gave it more for TV shootings because it had this wonderful height, the red trusses, lots of space, which we just don't have in our cities today. You can see we kept the north light windows, we kept the trusses, we kept the scale. And this was an old cement shed. So you can imagine what we could have done if we had only saved our wonderful textile mills, which unfortunately we lost the battle. The city of Mumbai lost the battle to whatever. And these are some other rooms after we restored them. We created a design studio using contemporary materials. And here are some other images. And the third thing was a new building we built. But how did we build it? We did not build a tower. We built it in steps in such a way that each floor had a garden. And instead of, it was for 3 different companies. Instead of giving them each a floor each, we gave them each a ground plus 3, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. So that every office was stepped and everybody got a garden. So it's called Brady Gladys Plaza. It's just near the other 2 buildings I showed you. And the picture to the right is actually the first floor. And it looks like a ground floor. So you can always do these things if you so wish. You can bring in greenery. You can bring in an environmental sustainable building if you wish to do so. Look at it today. It's full of green and it's just covered everything. And it's, what more can you want? Here are some other images from it. So that was the street. And taking this further with the Mumbai Esplanade project, this is the only project that I'm showing you that we could not succeed in. I realized that unless there's political and bureaucratic will, it's very difficult for us professionals to take things further, even if you have a lot of patience. Every city that we live in should have equality, it should have adequate infrastructure, it should have a sense of belonging, and a sense of place. All these things are very important. And the Mumbai Esplanade project was something which I worked with Professor Sidhu, that we would convert additional 50 acres of land in the heart of Mumbai by actually creating underground passages for the cars and connecting all the green Maidans, the Azad Maidan, the Cross Maidan, the Oval Maidan together. Because lakhs and lakhs of passengers come out of the two stations and they come out and they fall into the street. So we said the motor car is not the most important thing. People are the most important thing. The pedestrians are the most important thing. We worked very hard. This was just another one of our interest projects. It was not one of our professionally paid projects. We created 3D views to show how you can create plazas like they do in Europe. You can see, anyone who's been there will know that there's so many plazas created. We worked out how the underground passage for the cars could happen at VT, at Churchgate, and creation of this. But the motor car won, unfortunately, and we were not able to do this project as we wanted. So we have to decide, do we want to get more and more cars into the center of our cities, break down our heritage buildings, widen our roads indefinitely, remove our pavements so the motor cars can go? Or do we want people to be able to walk, people to be able to sit, people to be able to enjoy open spaces in their own cities? So this decision is one of the most important decisions which unfortunately we have not yet taken in our country. So we got support from the press, we got support from the people of the city, we had exhibitions, but it was not done. But now I'm a senior citizen, but I do believe one day that I hope at least that this will be done. So I dedicated this to the people of the city. Finally, my other interests, which are sustainable, I believe, is women, the role of women, because if we are 50% of the population and we are not 50% of the job earners and we are not getting equal pay, how can the country be sustainable? So I started the Hekar Foundation. The previous Professor Berman talked about Coorg. I am from Coorg. And if you look at the green book over there, I actually documented the wonderful wooden houses of Coorg because they were being destroyed very, very fast. So we've done different things through the Hekar Foundation, which is an acronym for Heritage, Education, Conservation, Architecture, and Restoration. We publish books. We've organized 2 very big conferences, one in 2000 and one in 2020 for women in architecture and women in design. We work for women laborers. We want them to have a decent place on the sites where they work. We want to have creches for their children. We want them to get equal pay. We want to train them, not just to be carrying cement on their heads, but they should be painters, they should be welders, they should be masons. This is what they should be. And we introduce this into all our tenders of my studio, that this is something that's very, very important. And we expect any contractor who works with us to fulfill these requirements as well. So this is coming to the end. I just want to say a few more things. I would like to end actually talking about the pandemic, which I know that Dr. Jain would believe very much. And this is really for the young people today. Arundhati Roy, she was the Indian author and activist, and she's also an architect by profession. And she says, historically, pandemics have forced humans to break with the past and imagine their world anew. This one is no different. It is a portal, a gateway between one world and the next. We can choose to walk through it, dragging the carcasses of our prejudice and hatred, our avarice, our date banks and dead ideas, our dead rivers and smoky skies behind us. Or we can walk through lightly with little luggage, ready to imagine another world and ready to fight for it. So I hope each one of you students, young people who are listening to this, will be ready to fight for this. As Dr. Jain said, we have to preserve our beautiful, everything that's on our beautiful Mother Earth. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Brinda, for the deep share of reflections of your work, in much the same ways as Mr. Pradeep Burman did in his inspiring ways. It was nice to hear us speak as little as he did. All of you out there as young Indians, and I'm glad that both of them were urging you all to think through the spirit of the future of Bharat. Junoon, as Dr. Jain said, and I'm glad that that Brinda Samaya put that up for you all to reflect upon. All of them, do you notice, all of them had pursued a path to find that balance between, in Mr. Burman's case, balance between business and biodiversity. In Brinda's case, as she herself acknowledged, between design and the various shades of green, as she called it. How do you go beyond checklists and certification for green buildings? Brinda asks, not with annoyance, but with reflection on the sincerity of purpose that you bring as young architects, engineers, or even business managers into what the future holds. She talks about owner-driven housing. She talks, therefore, about the sensitivity of communities. When she talked about the Badli village, for instance, in Gujarat, especially in testing times such as these, when India is finding her identity once again, as she has done several times in the last 3,000 years, it's very, very inspiring to hear of such effort between communities that come together to build temples and mosques and churches and everything else. So here, between her and Mr. Burman, you're seeing a very, very, what shall I say, very, very sincere, very appreciating set of Indian citizens. And I'm so heartwarmed to be another Indian, proud to have people like them as compatriots. It brings you back, it reassures you, shall we say, and redeems you of things that you sometimes get a little despondent about. Thank you both. Thank you, Kera, too, for the wonderful reflections. Very, very inspiring today, this last 1 hour plus that you've had. Your picture of yourself when you were 8, very interesting, Brinda. And those 3 pictures of mezzanine. Remarkable that somebody did a record. As in Mr. Burman's case, when he shows us that building of 22 months with a static camera capturing the time lapse. Wonderful, remarkable documentation that Indians like you, Indian leaders like you are finding. Remember, all of you youngsters out there, you must want to choose to do what you want to do, as she says. And as Arundhati Roy said in very poignant ways, can you help as the future of India to break from the past with another pandemic that is, at least getting to be ending? Prem Jain, she rarely speaks in any of these events that we have. She's always been podium shy, camera shy, but she's done so much. In the last 15, 20 days, maybe 30 days, she probably spent 10 hours. I don't know how she does this. She's on every single mail, every single comma and semicolon has to be checked by her. She can't lose her cool. She has to work with people. She has to in public say that everything happened because of them, when she knows that things happen despite them. Prem Jain, can you take the mic for the next 3, 4, 5 minutes and talk about these wonderful green ambassadors and the work that they have done with you? I know you have done a lot of work with them in spirit and with physical action too. Not to forget what Debashish Mukherjee has also done. Maybe you want to talk about that too. Over to you, Prem.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I'm just at a loss of words at this point. I mean, Brindaji's presentation was so inspiring. How she brought architecture, textile, heritage, history, everything together. I mean, if I had to go back, I might actually want to study architecture. I wish I'd known her when I was 20 and I was thinking of and I was seriously considering architecture as a career path. I changed my mind at some point, but I hope our audience is as inspired as I am listening to her. Mr. Burman had a very, very interesting take. I'm just very grateful he's here. He took out the time today. I must mention again Mr. Khera's presence. He logged in from the hospital. He's not been well, so we're just grateful he could be here for a few minutes. I know you are part of the trust and you don't need that mention, but I have to say thank you to you because you are with us every step of the way. And as are our other trustees and board of governors, but you and Ashish have been very, very strong pillars of support right through. I do want to share with our audience today, and I think the students would be waiting eagerly to know what happened with the challenges. So I will talk a little bit about this. Our green ambassadors this year, because we are the post-COVID world, physical events cannot happen. So we decided to come up with some creative ideas for the social media space and for the virtual world. We have this fabulous young brigade of green ambassadors. I would like to specially thank them. Apeksha, Vishesh, Prabhav, Sakshi, Aditi, Sakhi, Radhika, and Sanskriti. Thank you all for all the fabulous work you have done. They have come up with some amazing challenges which we have run over the past 10 days, and we've had an absolutely overwhelming response. We've had over 600 entries. We've been working through the night with our juries to actually share with you the winners. But before I share the winners, I do want to say something that all these people who have sent in their entries, I think each one of them is a star. The mere fact that you can express yourself through a creative expression is enough to be applauded. I know, I'm sorry, we have to select a few and I'm going to announce those winners, but I do want to say thank you to each one of you who took the time and effort to send in their entries. Thank you very much. And here goes our awards. So we have the Green Architecture Challenge. We couldn't decide, so it's a joint award. We have Sanket Agarwal and Saksham Walia, who are our winners for the Green Architecture Challenge. Next is the Green Mask Competition. The first star of the Green Mask Competition is Jigyansa Mishra. The second, Bhumika Chaudhary. Third, Vaishali Nagar and Prerna Mittal. Again, very hard for the jury to decide on one. So there are a few joint winners. Congratulations to each one of you. Next is the Green Art Competition. The first prize goes to Yashi Sharma. Second, Sejal Bajaj. And the third is a joint entry. Swati Sharma and Janvi Raj, you were both equally good. Congratulations on the Green Art Competition. The next is the Green Photography Competition. The first entry and the winner is Mohammad Yasin, was absolutely brilliant. Second, we have two people at the second position, Ashish Chauhan, Manish Makhija. And at the third, we have Mehek Gupta and Abhist Sharma. Our virtual run, and many people ask me, what is this virtual run? We did this on the 24th, which was Sunday. So people ran and recorded on their devices and they sent us images. So the first, second, and third prize is solely based on the distance that you ran. The first prize goes to Priyanka Chaudhary, second to Vanshika Gupta, and third to Vaishali Nagar. We could not, yes, these were last minute entries, so I wasn't sure they were going to come on. So we also have a social media star, the person who actually spread the word about Prem Jain Memorial Trust with the maximum hashtags. At first place is Muskan, second is Gangwar Deep, and third is Ishika. And the last challenge I would like to mention is the 1 minute short challenge. And these entries came in very, very late last night. The first prize goes again to Vaishali Nagar, second to Bhumika Chaudhary, and third to Priyanka Chaudhary. Thank you very much, everybody, for being a part of this. Before I sign off, I do want to say a big thank you to the PJMT family, the behind the scenes team, Yatin, Debashish, Debrati, Dhanya, Ronit, Ravinder, all of you. This day would not be possible, this event would not be possible without you. Thank you very much. Back to you, Doctor.
Thank you, Payal, for those wonderful words. Your shall we say, your irrepressible enthusiasm shows. You love to work with those kids out there. Uh, it was very nice, this whole session. As a matter of fact, let me now confess that since it's nearly done, to all of you distinguished speakers out there, we were trepidant at the beginning as to how this would go, how each one is going to possibly take this in a way that you will connect with the larger audience out there. And I'm glad to share with you all as master speakers that you've had some excellent registrations and an audience, not just at this online platform, but also at the Facebook level. The other thing that I must tell you is the moment it goes into that other web platform, it gets to be seen well after today. To all of you kids out there, I must only say this to you all, that it happened to me when I was 18, when I listened to somebody who spoke many years ago. And something that he said that day, I took back. I must have been among 400, 500 students that afternoon when this IAS officer was speaking. These three people, they said many things coming from their own context of sincerity of purpose and of thought and reflection and of their own work. Like they say, hands are the gateway to your mind. There are things that they have done, and you can see that when they speak, it comes from such rich insights and experience. There must have been things that they said that you will want to carry back home, reflect upon, and make in some ways an integral part of your own selves. Think about it. Go to Insta, do your like and comment. Don't just view things. See how you will connect and become join possibly the army of green ambassadors that the Prem Jain Memorial Trust is building. Thank you so much to everyone out there, all of you leaders for listening to us. And I know you have many more stories as inspiring as those of these master speakers, whether it's Kamal Mittal or it is V. Suresh, whether it's Ashish Rakesh, many, many others. The point is this, that, to get together a memorial address of this kind and to hold it with as many speakers coming in takes a lot of effort. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. This brings to close formally the third annual Prem Jain Memorial Address. Thank you so much, all of you, for being with us today. Good afternoon once again.
If we can change the way we think about buildings, maybe what we build will change the world. Urban India in the 21st century is racing at a breathless pace, powering aspirations for bigger, better, and more. But this fast-paced growth brings some serious challenges of the modern times. Today, we are on the verge of exhausting our natural resources and our environmental bounties. Our society is in desperate need of a revolution to save and preserve sustainable habitat for our future generations. The seeds for one such revolution were sown many decades ago, when a wise mother shared her far-sighted vision with her young bright son.
From my earliest childhood, it's been ingrained with me that truth will always win, what we call Satyamev Jayate. She also gave us the love for all living living creatures, trees and plants, the message of non-violence. And ever since my childhood, I've always respected that all life forms are equally important.
This exceptionally talented young boy went on to become a champion crusader for Green India. Dr. Prem Jain graduated from Banaras Engineering College, BHU, in 1957 and went on to the University of Minnesota, USA, to obtain the highest degree of PhD in Mechanical and Electrical Engineering. After spending 13 years working with some best research and design firms in the USA, he decided to return to his Janani Janambhoomi with a vision to build a new India. In 1980, he created Spectral, taking it to the country's most respected premier MEP consulting firm in the next 3 decades.
Another thing that happened in the Spectral time that we were working with, we were challenged, where is your green business center? As proud Indians we are, we said, we'll make the world's greenest. And we did. In 2003, we created Godrej Business Center in Hyderabad, which was then highest rating for any building in the whole world. And Rashtrapati came to inaugurate the building, which is unusual. They normally don't inaugurate the private building. But he did. That's where the green building movement started.
And that was just the start. Throughout his corporate journey, Dr. Prem Jain facilitated a record high of 60 platinum and 40 gold awards from IGBC and USGBC for design of green buildings in India. In 2007, Dr. Jain took over the mammoth responsibility heading the Indian Green Building Council, IGBC.
I declared when I became the chairman that next 6 years we'll achieve 1 billion square feet, 1 square foot by every Indian. My slogan was very simple.
His slogan became more than a reality when India reached 1 billion square feet of registered green footprint with IGBC in 2012, 3 years ahead of schedule, and further achieved 6.4 billion square feet of green building footprint by 2018. Dr. Jain also created another massive revolution by introducing a chapter on sustainability for the National Building Code of India in 2016.
The beauty of the code is that all municipalities across the country give approval to the plan based on the code. Every building which will come up henceforth, if it has to comply with the code, has to be green. And I know for sure in another 3 years or 4 years, we'll be far ahead of even America or any other country coming up in the future.
This visionary icon also founded ISHRE, which today has more than 12,000 professional and 8,000 student members. Later, ISHRE and ASHRE India bestowed upon him the Lifetime Achievement Award. He was also instrumental in institutionalizing Green Building Congress, an annual flagship event offering new paradigms to accelerate green building movement in India. For his exceptional work and vast knowledge, he was revered as the father of green buildings in India. One profound idea Dr. Jain strongly held onto was of nurturing and mentoring young bright minds, as he remained paramount through 47 years of relentless commitment to the School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi, as a visiting faculty.
In light of what I learned about Shanti Niketan, out in the open, when I don't have to put anything on the board, the classes meet in the open air here. For me, it is very fulfilling to see these young boys and girls go out in the field fully equipped with the knowledge of the real world. I don't tell them books, I don't tell them formulae, I don't tell them catalogs. I tell them real life situation.
Today, he's no longer with us, but his legacy and vision will brighten the path for generation of future leaders. To mark Dr. Jain's birth anniversary on the 26th of January, a week-long celebration titled Harit Prem Bharat Mahotsav will take place from 23rd to 29 January annually. To promote Dr. Jain's love for Mother Nature, the Prem Jain Memorial Trust is formed with a mission to create, establish and maintain sustainability paradigm through education, recognition and nurturing of the present and future generations. The vision of the Trust is to identify future leaders and global development of sustainability, create awareness and advocacy on environment, foster development of education, recognition of public participation and innovation, nurture young talent, disseminate education on sustainable development, ecosystems and built environment, create response mechanism for evolving sustainability, nurture talent recognition and encourage incubation.